What's up, everybody? Give us like 5 minutes or so while we get everybody in and up on stage and everything else. To give you guys a heads up, today we're certainly going to be talking about digital identity, metaverse, virtual representation via NFTs, um, but really kind of running the gamut as far as the digital economy is concerned. Want to get as many projects from as many ecosystems up as usual. And as many contributors within the speakers and panelists as possible as well. So I'm going to start inviting some people up, and then in about 5 minutes, we'll get started here. So thank you, guys.
Hello, everyone. Citizen here. Mic check.
What's up, Citizen? Yeah, I can hear you, dude.
Perfect.
Sound good.
Perfect. Looking forward to the space, guys.
100%, man. While we're waiting a couple minutes to get some more of the speakers up here, but certainly looking forward to the spaces as usual. It's becoming like a weekly ritual. So
yeah, let's go. Utility, baby. Utility theory. Not financial advice. It's all a theory, and that's how my username came to play.
Yeah, again, guys, this will start right after 5 about. So just waiting for people to hop in, waiting for some of the speakers to come up. So. What's up, Darren? How's it going, man?
How's it going, Solomon? I'm all right.
Living the dream, apparently. I know Hello Future. I see you down there. If you want to come up and speak, feel free. Oh, awesome. Ripple it in. I'd love to have you up too. Lehman Swap. I know you guys are going to come up and speak, so I'm inviting you up. Marta as well. So yeah, we're going to get started in about 60 seconds, about 2 minutes here, just trying to get everybody up. We were going to start at 5, obviously preemptive strike with getting all the speakers up. So.
Hey, what's up?
What's up? Who was that?
Good morning.
Hey, Elephant.
Ripple it in. Elephant
Yeah.
Man.
The Elephant Man.
Yep. Hello, Future.
It's me.
Hey, Hello Future. How are you?
Pretty good today. It's a lovely day in the
I'm
neighborhood.
Good. I'm good.
Nice to be
I'm
on.
Good.
Today's the day Citizen of the Future meets Hello Future. How's it going, Citizen?
Hello, Citizen.
Hello.
Yeah, there's always like some interesting relationship building that we do here. So like we have people from all across. Like Hello Future has been such an amazing contributor within the Hedera Hashgraph community. Ripple It In has been calling out scams on the XRPL community. Citizen has been delving deep into tons of different utility-based assets and really kind of has that focus around trade finance. Darren is obviously like old school researcher, deep diver. Marta, I know that we have you up here as well. Can you give us a little bit of like what is it you've been facilitating in this space for, and how long have you been here, and where do you think we might be at based on what you've been doing in this space for X amount of years at this point, I think, right?
Hello, guys. Good evening on my end of the pond. Speaking from Ireland, just for those that don't know me, I heard someone saying good morning, so good morning to the rest of the world. I hope you can hear me fine. So I've been around here for I think about 2.5 years at this point. It's just crazy how time flies. Mainly trading. I absolutely fell in love with those lines, those candles and patterns. And basically what I'm seeing right now is on charts, not a lot of interesting things. I think market is getting to many at the minute. It's just very stagnant. We're not seeing any direction. We mightn't see it for a while, but that doesn't mean there aren't many fascinating things happening around the crypto world, and I hope that we're going to talk about it tonight.
100%. I know we have Kelly up here as well, and Lehman. This is always kind of an open forum, so we wanted to phrase this discussion around kind of digital identity, but it's just one aspect of what really ties into the digital economy that we're very much so fast approaching. I sent you this morning paperless. This is something that most people don't know, and you actually brought this to light for me, so I'd be interested to see what the panel thinks. I'm curious what your thoughts are on it, Citizen, but there's basically laws and regulations built around trade finance that go all the way back to 1882 for that we're still using. Bills of Exchange Act of 1882, and in the UK, essentially they're dealing in paperless trade to digitize, trillions of dollars essentially. What do you think that surrounds itself around regarding digital identity to an extent, right? Because these businesses are going to have maybe digital twin representations of themselves to be able to facilitate digitization as well, right?
Yeah, so we're at a big turning point. That's why I like talking on trade digitalization, is because not a lot of people really understand trade finance. Shipments all around the globe, they all need financing, they need funding. And like I said, there is the Bills of Exchange Act of 1882, right? Like from the 1800s, so 200 years ago. And the laws are still, 99% of global trade is still in paper. And paper, if people have read my first edition of The Grid, it's expensive, it's slow, manual based. We went over a bunch. And this, where we're moving to, especially with digital identity, which is a really awesome topic, is there's so many entities in our global trade system that are shadow entities that are sort of like, gray players. And with these digital entity identifiers, there's one called LEI. It's a legal entity identifier. I wrote about it in the third edition. I'll take a snippet here, but I'm going to share this here so people can sort of see what it is. But it's a digital ID for entities in global trade. So when you sign up for an LEI, legal entity identifier, you get this digital ID for your corporation that you're participating in trade. And people can then see, hey, you're actually who you are, who you say you are, and who you're connected to. And so we're moving forward to this fully digitalized trade system where now the bad entities are going to get cut from the system because they don't have a legal entity identifier. And now it's only going to be real trade flows, et cetera, et cetera. So we're at a very interesting time. I'll pass back to you.
Yeah, I did want to introduce up here. I know that we have Kelly Ann Collins up here. She is the founder and CEO of Vault Lab, Pop Launch, and Vault X Cult. Kelly, can you talk a little bit about some of the initiatives that you've been facilitating in this space? You don't have to tie them into digital ID. This is kind of really just about where we're going as far as this economy, the digital economy, is concerned. So I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So we work at the intersection of Web 2 and Web 3. So what we're doing is working to bring people in to Web 3, people and brands. So we've been doing a lot of work there, and just, a lot of people are confused about things like digital identity. So this is a great conversation, especially companies.
Yeah, and I don't know if anybody noticed, I always look up ridiculous things, but there is a document coming out, and it's called, this came out on October 11th. It's EIDAS. You can Google search what that is. It's a European Union Electronic Identification, Authentication, and Trust Services that is essentially dealing in digital wallets, going to be available to European Union citizens in the near future that tie in health records, tie in, potentially criminal backgrounds. It deals in KYC natively. All of this stuff is 100% coming. It doesn't necessarily, I don't think it's going to be like this paradigm shift where every single person that is in Web3 or in society in general is going to have a digital identifier or a digital identity that's existing on blockchain. But at some point, I do believe that shift does occur. And Jay, I know you're up here from Spend the Bits right now, but with your onboarding portal right now, built on top of the XRPL for payments, was interesting to see because I hadn't seen this before from anybody. not only do you have kind of KYC aspects, so if you're not aware, it's know your customer, but you also have KYB. Can you talk a little bit about what KYB means?
Yeah. So hello everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. So for the customer, for the retail users, the government asks you to do the KYC. There are certain limits that has been imposed by FinTech in Canada, especially. If you go above that threshold, the payment facilitator needs to know, who you really are. This is where the KYC comes in, and then the KYB is the know your business. The concept is same. It's just find out the identity verification. So for the KYC stuff, let's start with the basic. They try to find out first of thing, your reputation, what you have done, your authentication, is it really you, and then your validation. Do you exist? And in those KYC segments, there are other attributes as well. Such as your age, address, citizenship, name, and your claim that, hey, my name is Jay. How do I know it, right? My credential, what credential I'm going to showcase, just to prove that thing. And then the end product is the verification, validation, attestation. This is where the third party validation happen on your claim that it's really you. And the same concept goes for the KYB segment. Is that some of the information are different, because KYB mainly talks about business validations, that your business exists, your reputation of business. So in a nutshell, this is what happened when you submit your verification. And behind the scenes, there are single source, there are dual source verification methods that happen using the third party, including the OFAC list. So there is a lot of stuff that has been not a stuff. There is regulation that has been implied over the on the crypto segment as well, that you need to make sure once the customer passes that threshold, you need to know who that customer is. And then if the limit passes more than 10K, then you need to report that. It's not a STR, suspicious transaction reporting. Is more likely just to, they need to know, because every bank in Canada, or maybe in US as well, the moment you try to do cross-border payment or a domestic payment over 10,000, they have an obligation to report that transaction back to their regulators.
Yeah, and I know, Darren, we talk a lot about kind of what's happening right now within Web 2, and I think, Kelly, this might have a little bit of synergy with you, the kind of the transition from Web 2 to Web 3. And I think that a big mistake that I see a ton of times in this space is that people or projects or whatever launches tries to go like full bore into Web 3, but not using the billions and billions of dollars, probably trillions, that has been facilitated to stand up the infrastructure of Web 2. So I think a lot of problems that exist in Web 2, and I guess this is more so for you, Darren, like, a lot of people in society don't even realize how much of their data is utilized for, like, we know, like, a lot of people know about cookies on the internet, right? Like, enable cookies, and it like tracks your browsing data. And then, I'm looking up a lawnmower on this site, and then I go onto Amazon and I start seeing ads for lawnmowers. But it's even deeper than that, to the point where, like, Darren, like, we saw something about Oracle recently, and there's some Instagram stuff. Like, your thoughts around like how our data is being brokered between these like legacy powerhouses. Do you think it's going to be a shift with Web3, with digital identity, or do you think that we're going to have more of the same as far as problems are concerned?
Well, I mean, like right now I'm signing up to an exchange, right? And they're asking me all this tons of information. I'm having to scan all different types of documents and upload it all in. And the benefits of a digital identity is I can give permission to that exchange, and they can just read what they need to see. I can give permission for each line that they want to see, each page of the PDF that they want to look at, right? So right now, the NSA, as well as other government agencies, are storing like everything that you do. They're just taking all the data and just storing it in warehouses. They say they were not doing anything with the data; they're just storing it, and it could really lead down. It's a slippery slope. It could really bring us somewhere dangerous if you launch like powerful algorithms against this data. You can really distill the data and be able to find out information that you don't even know exist. And, you know, right now we have social norms, but 10 years from now, something that you're doing might not be looked at the same way. And, you know, maybe you have some type of stigma or something that happens from a behavior that you have today, and you're not even aware of it. So having a digital identity component would enable some types of privacy, right? You would be able to interact on a private network where the information that's being stored is in your hands, right? And your digital identity can give power to whoever you're doing business with, saying, you know, you can look at this and this. You can't look at everything, but you can look at this and this. So, you know, it can enable us in certain ways, and like it could be dangerous in other ways. Hopefully there's some type of middle ground. I understand why there is KYC and AML and everything that goes on with it, but it seems like it's getting a little bit overboard. Just from like signing into exchanges in 2017 versus now, there seems to be asking for a lot more data, and you know, it could be dangerous.
We were on a call earlier today, and you were like, dude, I'm signing up for these exchanges, and it's like drop of blood, DNA, like social security number,
Strand of hair.
some hair. Mo, I know I brought you up, and Mo is the CEO or co-founder and CEO of Reveal Tech. Can you talk a little bit about what you guys are facilitating, what you guys are building out, what you guys are doing?
Absolutely, man. Thanks, guys, for having us on. We had our Twitter space earlier. We are very, very intrigued, excited, and really looking forward for not just cybersecurity, but with the crypto industry. What's happening is there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that don't know much, and there's a lot of newbies. And you know what? That's how usually a lot of these hacks and vulnerabilities come from. And one of the things that Reveal does, just tell you a little bit quickly about myself. I've been an entrepreneur most of my life. Came out in the crypto world about 7 years ago. Got really involved and immersed. Advised dozens and dozens of companies, from Coin Payments to Power Ledger, Valis. Oh my God, some that are not here, some that extremely well. And I learned that this industry from the ground up. When you're advising companies, you see the ins and outs from A to Z, what companies are doing, what's not working, what's happening, what happens behind the scenes that the community and the members and the media and so far company people don't see behind these big companies. And so you learn the mechanics of what to do and what not to do. And we realized, Adam and myself and the team, we realized before we started Reveal, there is a huge lack in security. And look at it, thinking about Reveal, we're like Norton 360 of Web3, Metaverse, and NFTs and beyond. And we realize it is much, much needed. So some of the things we do, we not just authenticate NFTs, we also have protection we're working on in phases in just digital security and Metaverse. We're having the first interoperable portal between 5 different metaverses, so we could go in, but we're testing out our avatars so that you don't bring in wormholes and malicious codes to. So we're thinking about 5 years ahead. But just really, really simply put, we just talked about. I just want to talk about this simple things because we're so behind. We're so forward in the crypto space about innovation, but we're so behind in security. So far as MetaMask has made billions, and finally they came out, and yesterday or the day before they put out, if you go on your MetaMask, finally it says, if you click on this, you're giving full access right to be able to access all your coins. And I thought about it. Well, this didn't just come to mind, but you know what? We're so behind with the open seas and big companies, and security comes last. And what Reveal's doing is we really want to be the forefront. As people think of a brand security, we want them to think Reveal. But thank you for having me on. I want to see what other people have to say. This is a big need in this industry, and we feel like if we as an industry must grow, we must bring security to the forefront and education to people's minds. Otherwise, mass adoption will never happen.
Yeah, I just want to ask, can everybody hear, like down in the audience, can everybody hear this space okay? We were having some issues with some people hearing on laptop. If you guys are down there in the audience, if you give a thumbs up that you can hear it. And we were having some issues with people getting kicked or potentially even blocked from this space as well, which I definitely apologize. I did want to ask HBAR or Citizen, go ahead first, and then I wanted to ask HBAR Foundation because there was that recent announcement with I can't remember if it was the FIC or if it was something else that definitely deals in digital identity. I did a video on it yesterday if you dove deep enough into it. But Citizen, I definitely wanted to give you a thought process. And I definitely want to hear from Marta, too, from the trading aspect of this.
Perfect. Sweet. So what I wanted to bring up is I don't know about you guys in your guys' country, but here in Canada, about digital, well, like for about identification. So to get a passport recently, my grandma had to get her passport here, but our passport offices all deal in paper. It's all paper. She had to hand in her forms, especially with this COVID stuff. She had to ship them all in via mail, and to get her passport, it took 3 months. And if you want to rush your passport, you actually have to. The passport center in our town here is closed, so you have to drive 4 hours away to to a big city where their big head office is. And there's actually a 3-4 block lineup every morning. People are there hours before they're even opened, and then you're waiting there all day trying to fill in this lineup because there's so many immigrants, people that are leaving the country, et cetera, in this place, that there is literally, you're in line for 12 hours. And this is all because of these slow paper processes and the offices. There's too many people, too much paper, too much manual validation. So I think when we're moving to this digital identity, there are decentralized digital identities, like I forget that country that's doing it out in Europe and that. But there are these ones where they can have secure digital identities, but it's going to eliminate problems like this because it's really disgusting to think we're in 2022 and you got to wait 3 months, or you got to go stand in a 12-hour lineup 4 hours away to get documentation to leave the country. Well, if you're in Mexico, it can take a couple hours. So I don't know about you guys the same way, but here in Canada, it's like that. I just want to mention that.
It's the same thing that was in that that EIDAS through the European Union today, talking about immigrants and especially gig workers, the gig economy, which most people don't realize. These are people that move to different nations to literally work and then send money home so that they can feed their spouse, their other spouse, and their children. And if they don't have the ability to connect into the system, they are left hung out to dry. And if they're paying for remittances on top of that, if they're sending remittances back home, the fees are, at a very bare minimum, always like 6%. They don't know how much money is going to get there on the back end of their families, X, Y, and Z. HBAR Foundation, I know there was that partnership like a day or two ago with Hedera, which I don't know if you remember which one I'm talking about. And then I definitely want to get Lisa and Marta up here to talk about maybe where the state of the market is from what they're looking at. So.
Yeah, sure. So first thing, Hedera has its roots in identity. Ping Identity, I believe, was one of the first investors in Hedera. Mance Harmon was employed at Ping Identity. We had Paul Madsen there as well. So we definitely have roots there. The HCS being our online notary is good for it. We have ServiceNow, Miko, Earth ID all working in that area. But, you were referring to the DFIC court system, Tajori, that platform. And, it allows you to pretty much track insurance contracts, titles, deeds, wills, all that kind of stuff, even images and multimedia. And one of the things they're using Hedera for is to, when there's something that's triggered, it allows the transmission of those kind of portfolios to designated stakeholders. And if you're doing that, of course, you need to identify those parties. So, of course, digital identity is going to be critical with that. But, even personally, at my startup, Twigital, we're allowing users to create high-resolution 3D renderings of any physical object and create Hedera NFTs from those renderings. And the reason I bring it up is because we want to create a network of authenticators for insurance appraisal, essentially the verification of condition of all these objects. And obviously digital identity, again, is going to be critical if you're going to have that kind of authenticator network that are signing off on these NFTs. But so Hedera's purpose built pretty much for those kind of use cases.
Yeah, I just want to add on to what you're saying with Reveal. That's why we chose Hedera to just not. They're not just in our partners. We also got a nice grant from Hedera as well. We are very in tune. We brought them a lot of good people, and we realized what you said. Hedera is absolutely a hidden beast, a sleeping giant. And once thing comes, people see what the NFT, because we see what's happening inside their network and behind the scenes, and talking to all the C-level and the people that we talk to. So we know what's coming up. And I believe once 2024 comes around, Hedera is going to be a massive competitor to a lot of their competition. People won't see Hedera coming, but I agree, man. We just see a lot of innovation, and even the NFT, they're investing a lot in that area. We brought them a partner as well, and they just got a big grant from them. And you know what? I just love everything Hedera's doing. They're doing everything the right way. We're a little slower than everyone else to move, but I believe they're doing everything the right way. Within the next bull run, I think they're set up, not financial advice, but to do some very, very big things.
I'm interested
Thank you. And Solomon, I see Jessica
Yeah.
Ravone down there. She's actually the head of our privacy fund. She might be a good one to come up and give some more insight on this.
Who is that? I'm sorry. I spoke over you. That's my fault.
No, I'm sorry. I did the same. But Jessica Ravone, she's in the audience. I see her down there. If she can request to be a speaker, if she wants to speak, she might be a good one to give us some insight on this.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. If throw a hand up there. I definitely did not get the opportunity to tell Lisa Edwards thank you for joining into this chat as well. If you're not aware, Lisa has been a trader for 25 plus years in stocks and Forex, and has been in crypto for over 10 years. And same thing with Martiverse. Like I'm interested because, these spaces get kind of heavy into like Hedera and the XRPL. And I'm certainly a fan of both of those ecosystems, but I also, I hold a tiny bit of Bitcoin in an IRA, and I do certain things as well. And like some of the other ecosystems, like I'm curious what your guys' opinions are as far as where we potentially are right now within this cycle. Is there synergy with previous cycles? Are there certain things that have happened that make us a little bit concerned with where we may be? And where do you think we might be, in, let's say, 2024 by the halvening, or 2025? So, yeah, thank you, Lisa, for joining. And then Martiverse, definitely want to give you guys a little bit of a forum and step away from the digital identity aspects to talk about what you guys have been doing in the space and what you're seeing right now.
I might give Lisa. I love Lisa, and she knows it as well. I'm a big fan of hers. She taught me a lot. Not many people know I was actually part of her teaching group as well. So if Lisa, you want to go ahead, I don't mind. You definitely have way more experience than me. I have very modest opinion about the current market. I really concentrate on very much like on here and now. I'm a person who doesn't like thinking too far ahead in time because I physically get very anxious. So I avoid it. I like to control what I feel and what I see. I think there's obviously the debate whether we have seen the bottom yet or we haven't. People like to use different indicators. When you use your fibs, many will argue that no, this is definitely not the bottom. But the question is, at this point, in going back on charts, we would have seen already some sort of relief in terms of price action. We haven't seen this yet, so we keep hearing this as well, that it's overdue. But the question is, who is going to be buying? Who's going to be actually moving the market at the minute? Because currently there aren't really any signs of volume and money coming into the market. So I'm still, very cautious and very careful at whether we are going to see any movement from here. But at the same time, I keep kind of talking about DCAing, and I think it's kind of the safest way from here to do. So yeah, I would love obviously to hear what Lisa has to say about that. I value really and listening to everything you guys been saying as well. It's very eye-opening, and I think everybody here on this space is going to learn a lot today.
Hey everyone, thank you for having me, and it's absolute pleasure to be here. So I don't know if anyone sort of knows my background overall, but I started in information security way back in the late 90s, and that sort of put me into the forefront of keeping data secure. And we worked with the Australian Stock Exchange and those sort of big companies. So with the recent Optus data hack here in Australia, that's brought into the forefront, having that sovereign identity and keeping that safe. So, Australia has got a digital identity, but was it too late to have that, introduced? Because, all of your data is already out there. So having a digital identity, you kind of need to have new data, new information stored so that it's not stored somewhere else. So, and that's the issue that, Australians are facing right now with that Optus hack. So, with Web3 sort of looking at that, it makes it quite difficult because it does have to be integrated with governments. So I think that's a major issue that's going to be faced with Web3. So yeah, so that's my view on digital identities and that sort of thing. Now with the the state of the market, and just listening to Marta and saying who's buying. So basically in bear markets, exchanges, big firms, big funds, and whales, they're the buyers. So markets are moved by futures, by those people coming in. So a bottom can be formed at any time, and we really don't know when that is. So we could have one more drop here, or this could be the bottom. So within the 4-year cycle of Bitcoin, we're kind of looking at a bottom between now and January for the first bottom, and then we have we always have a relief rally, and then we have a second bottom which mostly doesn't break that previous bottom. It will come near. So if we have a look back to the 2017, 2018 sort of high and bear market, 2017 we had that high at almost 20,000, and then we had the low at 3,200. We had a relief rally to about 10 or 11,000, and then another low to 4,000. So we're kind of at that point right now where we're nearing the bottom here, or a temporary bottom here, for a relief rally going into Christmas and into next year, and then having another 6 to 8 months of bear market. So that's kind of how I see the market at the moment.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because, like, if you look at Bitcoin, and I did this, and I don't have it up anymore, but the rally that you're talking about, it was like 400. It was a little bit over 400 days until you kind of had that double bottom aspect actually occur with the relief rally, and then even the cycle before it was like, I want to say like 220, 230 days, like all the way back in 2014 or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, though, right? It's like we had that rally up to like 13.8, and then it crashed back down to like 3,800 or whatever it did, and it took over a year for that to happen.
Yeah. So and that's kind of what's happening at the moment. So when you're looking at the there's no retail buyers buying, obviously, because they're all, they were over leveraged, or, and they've just been wiped out of the market at the moment. So that's going to take a little bit of time to build that money back up. And of course, with, inflation happening, and that money's not going to be coming into the market at the moment. So we're going to have funds and exchanges and that sort of thing. They're going to be buying and pushing the money up and, the price up. And then when they've pushed it up enough, they'll pull it out of the market. And then that's when we have that drawdown.
All right. I definitely, Citizen, if you have anything, I have to probably add up a speaker or two, and I definitely want to introduce Jessica, who is the director of the business development at HBAR Foundation, which is fantastic. But Citizen, and for everybody up here with digital identity, I know that you're going to be delving deep into kind of the mind map, Citizen, within all of the aspects that we just talked about. Is there anything that you're kind of looking at right now? And I want to try to let some more speakers up if possible.
Yeah, well, I was just going to bring up the fact that, about the global macroeconomic situation is the standard setting bodies are making plays in the background, the FSB, the OCC, that there's been some more movement towards regulation. And I think this should be a good warning for anybody that's out there, investing in the shit coins and the meme coins, is to play your cards right, because anything, they're working on this puzzle that, anything that doesn't fit within partnerships or interoperates with traditional finance is going to dry up one day, because as soon as they drop these regulations on us, there's going to be an exorcism of shit coins. And basically, if you're stuck, a lot of citizens are going to be stuck holding worthless bags of tokens. So make sure that you're investing in ones that meet.
Yeah.
I just wanted to put that out there, since we're talking about price action and that, because, we're still waiting for regulation for the stable coins. We're still waiting for to prove backing, stuff like that. So yeah, that was it.
100%, dude. And I think that, I think we can probably all agree that most of these market cycles are based on oversaturation versus undervaluation, depending on what portion of the cycle you're in. Oversaturation is when you have so much occur. I want to bring Citizen. I'm gonna move you to listener for 1 second.
No problem.
And then I'll get up. I'm gonna get up Dirk here if you want to come up to speak. But it's kind of that promulgation of value, that really is going to take us into this next cycle, because oversaturation, we all know that occurred. I remember looking at CoinMarketCap in late 2020, and there was 6,800 cryptos that were listed on CoinMarketCap. And I can go on there right now, and there's 22,000 or 20. It's probably even more than that right now. And there's not going to be 22,000 successful projects in this space. And it actually, it takes all of the failures to kind of propagate what we expect to see for the next cycle to occur. But when you see things like BNY Mellon today or yesterday, institutional grade crypto custody, Bitcoin and Ethereum are first, and I'm sure that's kind of just the entryway for other assets as regulatory clarity comes through. And then also SIX, the digital asset exchange, the stock market aspect of digital asset exchange, also institutional grade digital asset custody. And both are tied into Fireblocks deeply. It's always interesting to me because Jay Clayton left office 2 weeks early and then left to be an advisor at Fireblocks. Probably nothing to see there, but definitely want to get Jessica up here. Jessica is the director of business development at the HBAR Foundation. So certainly super honored for you to, number one, be a listener, but be willing to come up and speak. And I guess, if you have any thoughts around digital identity and just where you think we're at right now in the market, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here. I was passively listening, but this topic is really interesting and certainly really important to to our funds, and specifically the privacy fund. So just to give a bit of background about myself and about the privacy fund. So I'm the director of business development, with also spearheading our grant operations program. And I oversee from the foundational side both the Female Founders Market Development Fund and the Privacy market development fund, which Jim Nasser, if any of you all are familiar with him, he is the founder of Acor, but also he manages the privacy fund. So he's really the brains behind all of the he's the brains and the expert, privacy expert behind the privacy fund. He has worked at the CDC, I think, for over 2 decades, and he's built really great software for Hedera before becoming the leading the privacy fund. If you've all heard of LightHouse, that is an application that he's built on Hedera. Over this past year, I've been working really closely with Jim to provide, to source and provide grants in the privacy space. So focusing on grants that are around digital identity and specifically consent. So we have a lot of great things in the works, not yet that are published, but most recently, I believe last week, we had 2 announcements come from a grantee called Repriveta, and they are working with athletes and on their digital identity. Specifically, the work last week, we had a great article come out about George Gervin. If any of you guys know, he's the Iceman, a famous basketball player. And he's taking back the rights of his basically nil. So is that name?
What was the project's name again?
Repriveta.
Thank you.
And in the article, it's they've changed their name to iPriveta, and it's an application called iOwn.me. So, anyways. There's a lot of things that we're doing in this space. We're super passionate about it. We have folks like Jim Nasser, who's expert in privacy and also in healthcare, worked at the CDC. And we also have Paul, who is really, who's recently joined the HBAR Foundation and previously worked at Hedera. So he focuses a lot of his work on DIDs as well. So anyways.
Are there, Jessica, are there aspects right now that you're seeing from a business development standpoint from the foundation? Because I know in speaking to Shane and some of the other individuals from the foundation that there are multiple different initiatives. Are you seeing some initiatives? I guess the question is this. Throughout 2021 and 2022, has there been a pivot between certain initiatives within the foundation? And do you expect other initiatives to maybe take up more steam as this ecosystem becomes kind of more, I guess I would say, mature? No, and it's not Hedera ecosystem, but as the digital economy becomes more mature,
Yeah.
would you expect a transition to other ecosystems you guys have as, foundational like funding aspects?
Yeah, certainly. I think that when we started out, we wanted to cast a very wide net. Now, coming up on actually my 1-year anniversaries at the HBAR Foundation, and a lot of the team members is going to be this Friday. So after this 1 year, we can take a look back and see what really stuck and start narrowing our focus on what's providing more transactions this space, more account IDs created, what's the community gravitating towards. So we're definitely, I think you will probably see some changes in 2023. And I think that we'll always adapt to the market. And I think that we will have some more focus on different areas. Maybe some new ones can come up next year. There's definitely the possibility of that.
Kelly, I kind of want to ask you, like being kind of an OG Bitcoin, community member, being kind of a trader in this space for a long time, are there ecosystems that interest you outside of, whether it be Bitcoin or BSV or aspects like that? Like, what do you kind of look at for like what interests you in this space, like as far as sustainability, or is it kind of just like sticking to kind of the safer, kind of the what we would consider like the old school type, assets in this space that have been around and proved out sustainability. Like, where's your head at when it comes to the aspects within like innovation and Web3 versus like what just doesn't need to be here? And is there kind of a middle ground that you try to find, as this space develops?
I mean, it's in the Web3 space. I mean, I'm always looking for utility and community and, looking at the roadmaps, because I think we have seen a lot of things come and go. We have seen a lot of projects come in and promise a lot and then they're gone. I think it's the same with crypto as it is with the NFT projects or even, metaverse projects. So I always look at, the utility, the plan, and also just seeing, who's behind the project, I think is important too.
I think, I guess the question that I would have even to any of the panelists up here, like, do we think that we're going to see like proof of work assets, like that are newer proof of work assets coming out that are like going to be able to get to the point where Bitcoin and Ethereum, well, Bitcoin is still obviously there. There are obviously other top 30, top 50 assets that are still proof of work. Ethereum has made that pivot to proof of stake, essentially, which in my opinion did cost decentralization for the fact of speed and some other aspects that they probably worked out internally and tested. But is there ever really going to be another proof of work asset that comes out that is worth its grain of salt, or is it kind of going to be the assets that have sustained themselves over time, like Bitcoin and things like that? Which I don't think Bitcoin will probably never pivot from proof of work, in my opinion. But I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, Kelly, and maybe some of the people that have been here for longer. I've been here since 2017, longer than that, I guess I would ask Lisa and Kelly if you guys have any opinion on that one. It's kind of a crazy question, right? Yeah.
I did have something to talk about with regard to privacy, if you don't mind.
1,000,000%. Go ahead, Hello Future. Love having you here, by the way. And I'm sorry. I'm trying to make sure that I'm getting everybody a form. Yeah, go ahead, Hello Future. Go ahead. 100%.
Well, when we talk about it here in the United States, and for those people in outside of the United States, there's oftentimes on Spaces people are discussing it with regard to the United States. Whereas if we look at the rest of the world, they are ahead of the United States in many regulations and defining crypto. So, for example, the European Union just agreed on a thing called MiCA, which is markets and crypto assets. And those laws and regulations and guidelines are going ahead in 2024. So, within that, they have a very extensive privacy and identity issue within those laws. So some of these issues are going to, whereas the United States is behind that. So, if we look to the European Union for guidance, I think that's a good thing going forward. And these things will come to fore when we have more regulations and guidance on that. As we know, we don't want to continue with the way it is being dealt with in the United States, with a punitive aspect of crypto, when it could be much more forward thinking and just get to the point where we're more in an advise and consent mode rather than a punitive way.
Yeah, and Darren, I'm definitely not going to be able to reference this 100%, but Fed Chair Jerome Powell came out, like, I think this was a week or two ago. Darren, do you remember whenever he had that quick speech on CBDCs in the United States, basically stating that a CBDC would have privacy aspects, but it would not be anonymous? Like, isn't that kind of that's a little bit of an oxymoron, right? Like, it's going to have privacy aspects, but it's not going to be private. So what does that look like? Because I think the main question is, how do you transition fiat or dollar-based currency into the digital age and make it represent digital cash in a way where you
today in MTech is a company building on Hedera and working in the finance system, and they were selected by the United States government to do the digital dollar project. So they're aim is to create a digital dollar for the U.S. government to take a look at and say, this is how we view this, and how going forward you might want to take a look at building a digital dollar. So that is Carmela, who's the CEO, and she's very active in fintech globally, hitting a lot of underserved African nations, working with the Bank of Ghana. So again, that's taking
Did
place
you
outside.
see Hello Future? Did you see that document that I found? Which is literally anybody in this chat can go and Google search. It put in parentheses and type in decoding CBDCs, and then a next parentheses. I mean, it's a Hedera file document that came out, and MTech is definitely mentioned. Bank of Ghana, I think there was another CBDC aspect, and it says that they're blockchain or DLT agnostic, but the consensus service that they used, it basically says agnostic, but then it says current solutions, and then it says Hedera consensus service. So I think what you're talking about is Project New Dawn 100%, which definitely is Fed and Microsoft and MTech. It'll be really interesting to watch how everything plays out, I think, though, certainly. So.
Yes, I mean, anyone that's gone to any of the conferences this year, whether it was Dallas or Austin at Consensus, or I was recently in San Francisco for the Circle conference, and any amount of issues that are being discussed in terms of fintech, even people that are not Hedera based or outside of Hedera, they all wanted to talk about Hedera as that solution. I know that when we were in HBAR, Bull can attest to this. When we were in Austin, representatives from the White House were hanging out by the Hedera booth. So I think being a regulatory from the ground up, Lehman built the Hedera ecosystem with regulations in mind. And that doesn't mean that it's going to impact privacy. That means that it's going to support privacy, actually, in a way that, yeah, you can prove you're 21, but you don't have to have the bouncer at the club doesn't need to know your address and your driver's license number.
I think another thing that's really interesting that's a huge misconception in this space, and this might be interesting to Kelly and Marta and anybody else down there that has been here long enough that might, that is holding Bitcoin and these other kind of assets. Like, we hear a lot, when you're in like the XRP community or the Hedera community or, the XDC network, any of these aspects, you hear a lot of verbiage around ISO 20022. And we tried pushing this out because in crypto area, I don't know if she's still down there. Yeah, she's still down there. She did an interview with Impel, and Impel is building out on the XDC network. Impel essentially fully collateralized one-to-one Bitcoin, which creates scarcity on the network, and bridged it over WanChain. And Impel's financial messaging solution is ISO 20022 compliant. If you guys in the audience don't know, ISO 20022 is essentially a new messaging standard that is being implemented globally across all of the banks, all the financial institutions in the entire world. Kind of the deadline is 2025, but there's a lot of rhetoric in this space that there's ISO 20022 coins, when in fact, there's coins that could be used to settle on top of that compliant infrastructure if these companies build them out. And really, I would expect there to be probably hundreds of different cryptocurrencies, and it's going to be based on liquidity and all these other aspects. So I don't know if you heard about that, Kelly, or Marta, or anybody else down there, but it just goes to show that, like, this space gets pretty crazy sometimes with like knowledge and what's actually occurring. So I wanted to bring that up because we did mention that, and shout out to Crypto Airy for doing that interview a while ago. Citizen, I'll get you back up here. But yeah, what's up, Derek? How you doing, man?
Is it okay if I share that schematic that we created so people can visualize it?
Yeah, dude, you created it, man.
1 sec.
You're a wild animal. This was like, so Ari did a badass interview, by the way, and I know she's down there. And Impel and XDC Network and what they're facilitating, I think, is big, and it incorporates Bitcoin, and I think it's an insane thing to even talk about, because most people were like, "You're lying, you're an idiot," and it's like, actually, no. And Citizen spent like 4 hours on the call with us that day, and we were like, how can we tell people how this actually happens? And he's like, I always like imitating your voice, Citizen, because I know you're a Canadian, and I'm just like, it's going to be great, guys. I'm just going to create this mind map. It's going to be like I'll just do a mind map that is very, very simple, and people will understand exactly what is occurring in the global financial infrastructure. I'm just like, go for it, bro. Whatever you want to do, go for it.
Yeah, let's map it out so we can create a visual so they can completely understand.
Yeah, share it, man. That'd be awesome, dude.
I'm just pulling it up right now.
Hi, Ryan. By the way, sorry for being late.
Oh no, 100%, dude. So yeah, Dirk, I know you're building a metaverse and digital asset aspects out on the XRP ledger as far as the Expector project is concerned. Obviously, we're excited in the XRP ecosystem to be able to facilitate native NFT minting. XLS20 is that standard. I believe the last time I checked, it was like 2 hours ago. We had 28 out of what we need is 29 votes. So you need over 80% consensus on the network for, I think it's 2 weeks in continuity. We're right about at that threshold. And my question to you, Dirk, though, is like building a metaverse out. You're going to have digital identity aspects that you have to deal with. Like, is there going to be a separation? Is that NFT going to give you the gate key into the metaverse aspects? What are you guys feeling like you're going to be dealing with? Because you are the type of person, I know you do, because you spent like 3 months building out a V2 of a white paper. And I know you messaged me and you said, as soon as this releases, I'm going to have to start working on V3. So like, what does it look like as far as being able to actually provide value in this space when this space pivots and shifts so much?
Well, I think that in the end, we should call it a light paper, though it's 52 pages. It's not that technical, but it's a very transparent overview of what we achieved until now and what we want to do. About digital identity, we have our artist Mao, who is creating our avatar software, which will be available for other projects and other metaverses as well, by the way. And that's something he's really specialized in hyper-realistic human-like avatars. And that can be very interesting to combine with the real digital identity as well.
I wanted to give a shout out to Fabric Labs. I did an interview with Fabric Labs, building out on Hedera as well, and I was surprised because, like, yeah, anybody in here, like, you know, if you want to give a follow to Fabric, like, this wasn't a paid interview or any of that stuff. Like, just trying to reach out to all these community members, and what Fabric is essentially doing is trying to provide educational aspects in this space. One of the really interesting things was they've actually partnered with a fashion institute to figure out, you know, NFT aspect, wallet creation built on Hedera. And what we don't see right now is measurable results based on education. I mean, you see it to an extent, but that I think is what Fabric is going to be able to accommodate, or within the next, you know, handful of months here, or whenever that term ends with that fashion institute. And there's so many more plans. So Fabric, what's up, dude? And certainly glad to have you up here, dude.
Thank you so much for having me and give me an opportunity to talk a little bit. I love this discussion. I love this topic, talking about digital identity. I actually taught at the class, so just a quick overview. Fashion Institute is pretty forward-thinking, especially from a Web3 perspective. They've had a blockchain course for a few years now. This year is the first. This is the first semester of their Web3 NFT course, and these are some phenomenally talented artists who are going to be building projects on Hedera. So I was up there last night guest lecturing, and I kind of went off script a little bit with the planned syllabus because we started talking a little bit about digital identity, and I kind of caught myself. I sounded a little bit like a zealot, but I think it's hugely important. So many times in Web3, we kind of get caught in our own little world. We live this every day. We think about it all the time, and most of the people we talk to also live it every day and think about it all the time. But I think it's important to take a step back and think about what mass adoption is really going to look like. And that's where I think education is so important. It's not just about the nuts and bolts of how to do a white paper and how to mint an NFT and how to download a wallet. It's more about this sense that we all have of self-sovereign identity, of decentralization. And it's so important to instill that into people that we talk to, into especially young people who are just being introduced to Web3. It's so important to instill that because I just did a podcast today with the CEO, Sushil from Drop, which is a great project on Hedera that's doing micropayments. And they've built in protections for people who use their application to protect their identity. But not all companies are going to be as forthright about that and as protective of their customers. And as the institutions who are going to fight back against Web3, as they start to come around and realize that they have to take advantage of this technology, personally, I believe they're going to try to hold on to their monopoly on data that they have now. And if they make it easy, if they make it brain dead simple, if they make it so that we all give away so much of our digital selves every day, and we're okay with doing it because we get something back. We get quick Google searches. We get the right products recommended to us on Amazon. But there's a way to do all of those things and still maintain ownership of your data. That's going to require that these institutions, the Googles and the Amazons and the Facebooks of the world, are going to not profit as much. They're not going to make as much money because they make so much off of our identity. But it's important for us, number one, to instill that idea of self-sovereign identity and that idea of personal ownership and decentralization. But it's also incumbent on us to build applications that are brain dead simple, that give people who are new to Web3 as we grow towards mass adoption, give them opportunities to protect their data and also have a clean user experience and also have all of the bells and whistles that they would have otherwise. Don't essentially give them an excuse to say, oh, I'll just keep giving up my data because it's easier. It's so important. And when I went kind of off script in the class last night, it was to say that, and it was to try to impress upon the students how important this is and how much of a seismic shift in the way business is done digitally, how big this can be. And this is the only time it's going to have a chance to happen. This is it. If we don't get it right this time, then it's gone. We're just going to continue giving up our data, and it's just going to be out there for the highest bidder. So it's a real responsibility for all of us who are here and all of us who are in the Web3 space. And if there's anybody out there who has some ideas on how I can get this message across or wants to help me out with that, please shoot me a DM, reach out anytime. I'm happy to, I want to collaborate as much as possible. But the more we can get that message out and the more we can instill that sense of freedom and ownership, then hopefully we can get it right.
Yep. Fabric, feel free to pin a tweet up here. I'm definitely going to let Metaswap come up, and I want to definitely say hi to Lehman Swap coming up here as well. And, one of the things that we see in this space consistently, or at least, if you look back on why Ethereum was so successful, it's because you have multiple liquidity aspects going from, decentralized exchanges or NFT projects, let alone the fact that Yuga Labs is now being, which is the founders of Bored Apes, being probed by the SEC, which is shouldn't surprise anybody because we're going to see multiple aspects within this. But Metaswap, what's up? How you guys doing? Let me give Lehman a chance real quick though, because I definitely wanted to introduce Lehman. If you guys want to, Lehman, you guys go ahead, and I think Coffee's on here, right? So,
yeah, thanks for giving us a chance to be up here. Really appreciate it. I can give a DeFi perspective, or at least a project team perspective on digital identity and KYC in general. I think obviously one of the most important use cases that Hedera is bringing to the table is storage of digital identity and really helping that transition from Web 2 to Web 3 in terms of ownership of your data. But from the perspective of a project team, one of the most important things that we're looking at is security. Really making sure that we have a secure way to verify our identity and make sure the community is comfortable while also keeping our own security. We're all separated by jurisdiction, geographical location, and you see these private services. More specifically through CERTIC, you can do a KYC verification, and I think going forward, that's something that a lot of project teams should be focusing on is getting that seal of approval from a third party, almost like a kosher stamp, where someone can verify, hey, these are real people. They are who they say they are, and it only would need to come to light if something catastrophic happens. Because at the end of the day, code is law. So you could have a docs team that still has a negative outcome, but you want to have that opportunity to justify the project team itself and respect their privacy rights. So I'm hoping that becomes more popular and there's more teams that are staying anonymous that opt for these private KYC verifications.
Yeah, Lehman, if you guys want to post something up above and then Metaswap, you guys can go ahead in a second here. I did want to mention, what these spaces are really about is they're not trying to be Hedera centric or XRP centric. I know we have a ton of speakers up here from communities that I'm certainly in right now, but I've tried infiltrating so many different ecosystems. Last week we had Big Time and we had Undead Blocks. We had multiple different ecosystems, and we're going to do that on a consistent basis. But sometimes these conversations just flow. It's literally a very few amount of people that are still here in this space right now. So I have to just right now, even just say thank you to Lisa and Martiverse and everybody that's come up to speak, from different ecosystem standpoints that might not be inherently in Hedera or the XRPL or Quant or XDC or any of these things. So it takes a lot of guts to come up into these spaces and just talk naturally. And really that's all that it is. Once you can get into these spaces, and most times if you get into a space and it is super about how this one project is going to do X, Y, and Z, it's usually something that I would run from, and I've made mistakes in the past, but it's normally about just normal conversations, because what you'll find is everybody in this space is trying to build out in the same way. So no matter what ecosystem or blockchain or DLT you're building upon. So Metaswap, thank you guys for wanting to come up to talk. Anybody else down there that's creating a project, feel free to come up, and I definitely want to give the forum to you guys, Metaswap, for a second.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate you for accepting my request. But yeah, I was just doing my regular runs on the Twitter here, and I saw the topic of digital identity. So I thought this would be a great time to sort of explain Metaswap's approach to digital identity, specifically how we are trying to architect a system to promote user sovereign data. Specifically, what we're doing to do that is we're utilizing DIDs. That stands for decentralized identifiers. And these decentralized identifiers essentially are created at user creation for profile as soon as they create a profile. And when you create a profile, all we see on the back end is a only readable code that's encrypted through the EI. Let me not give you a wrong code here, but the ED25519 encryption algorithm. So when you create these accounts, we aggregate these accounts in a centralized server. There is a centralized server that is aggregating these publicly available encrypted codes that represent a user. And if anyone is familiar with how this works, I'm sure you can also chime in. But essentially, it uses, if you want to see a graph, you can just look up a Merkle tree diagram, and essentially it has a top-down bottom structure where that code that you created that represents you as a user requires your public and private key in order to tamper with it. So us as maintainers of these Hello?
I think we got Rug for 1 second. Go ahead, Metaswap.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No worries. Yeah, so us as maintainers, all we really do is allow people to view this data, but there is no possibility for us to tamper with it as the host and aggregators for this. And so what we really want to do is promote the same thing that the people who initially created digital signatures promoted. So there's this great paper. I'm sure a lot of people in this space have read it. It's by Stuart Haber and Scott Schermetta, called Digital Signatures. And it's really the paper that helped engender. It was written just before Bitcoin paper came out, and a lot of it you can go read it, and you'll see how a lot of what is in the Bitcoin paper sounds similar to how their approach was. And it was simply just to maintain the public and private key encryption at the creation of data, and then make it only readable. So DIDs is something that we've seen a couple of people do in the community, and anytime we see it, we really like to analyze their approach, because we believe that the next stage of decentralization and to the state of creating user sovereign and truly owned data, it has to do with the decentralized identification. And
Do you think that like DIDs and decentralized identification deals in ZKPs at some point? So it's like zero knowledge proofs, where like if I have a minimum amount of data that I can sign a transaction, you know that it's me, then I can participate in these ecosystems, which we don't see a lot of that being talked about. I know that was flagged to me because like I'm sponsored by XX, and XX is like David Chaum, essentially eCash, like before Bitcoin. Central Bank of the Netherlands, like aspects surrounding that, and they obviously have a layer one at this point in time. I'm not advocating you to go out and buy a coin. I'm just giving you an example. They brought up zero knowledge proofs, and they were really smart to me, because to me it's like I would want the most simplistic way to be able to confirm to whoever I'm trying to confirm to that I'm myself within kind of this this digital economy. Do you guys feel the same way, where it does come down into like the most secure way of simplicity as possible? But how do you like facilitate that? Really, Jean Lupin's down there too. Jean Lupin has his hand raised, and this dude like researches like every cryptographic aspect of this space. So like he's going to be like, EIP 374758 is not what I would go with, but I'm definitely going to advocate for 374759. Like, so yeah, I'll open up the floor to you guys.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'd love to take any questions, but yeah, so our approach to how we want to make this as simple and like easy to use as possible, and sort of safe and secure, is we're using protocols that allow us to sort of make it one node, so that once you create your decentralized identifier node, that can be used for anything else, like any other block. It can be chain agnostic. So if you so happen to lose the DID, right, you can go and create another account, and it doesn't matter if you really, any of the data that's on this DID is not sort of dependent and like insecure to the vulnerabilities of that single DID, because everything that's on it is sort of a layer 2, and you need private keys to access it. But in order to tamper it or anything, you need the public keys and private keys to access and tamper with it. But if you really wanted to like hack or anything, you would need every single private key. For, say, I have my Hedera wallet on my DID, you would need my Hedera private and public keys. Or if you need it, so we provide the security of the private and the seed phrase, but that's anonymous to anyone else. And if you wanted to access your own Hedera wallet through Metaswap, you wouldn't be able to, because we never really log anything that has to do with your Hedera wallet. In fact, we use Hash Connect, as most of their DApps do.
My question is always like, when we do get to decentralized identity, like verifiers and kind of digital economy, and where we go with digital ID. we're so, I still think we're very far away from that, but I think it's coming much quicker than most people anticipate. So like right now, and this is not even like bullshit, like from the European Union, like the what I just talked about at the beginning of this chat, like this stuff is coming. Um, but you're dependent upon people to like custody their own, number one, their public key, number two, their private key. How does that translate over into a digital identity? And if it's not simple, people are going to inherently screw it up totally. And we already have identity hacking and all this other stuff where your identity gets, stolen by somebody. It becomes scary as shit when you start thinking about the prospects of like all of your data. And this isn't, here's the here's the funny thing about it. Most of our data is already known by the big techs, like most of these big techs like have our data. Like Oracle has dossiers on 6 billion people in the world. And that's not a bullshit thing. Like if you've ever used a personal laptop to update JavaScript or deal with JavaScript or any of those aspects, Oracle has a dossier on you more than likely. It's how do they use and how do they sell that data really? When we get into decentralized identity and digital identity, how do you make it as simple as possible for the mass populace in a way that, number one, they're comfortable with what they use? And I don't know if it ever gets away from people custodying certain things or organizations custodying certain things, which becomes scary, but you have to make it simple. And go ahead, John Lupine. I know you're down there. What's up, bro?
Oh, what's up? What's up? I like to hear about more about this project. I mean, I do like that you're using Edwards curve or EDDSA, the ED25519 key, because again, computationally, it's very, very strong. We're talking like 2 to the 255th power minus 19.
I told you guys that fucking John Lupine was going to come in and say ED
Nice.
something. Yeah, nice, bro. Like, yeah, go ahead, John. No, it's fantastic. Please go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you, dude.
Oh, it's okay. I appreciate it. But it does go into FIPS 201, and we're in FIPS 201, FIPS 202 right now for the Federal Information Processing Standard, and that's also dished out by NIST as well. So that we're looking at FIPS 201-3, where it's talking about personal identity verification. Is now are we using biometric data to start fingerprinting, and then what are you doing with the private keys? Because I think of like a SSH keygen where I get the private key and public key, but if I leave the private key on my system, it doesn't serve anything for security. So are they going to be just storing their public keys? Where are their public keys going to go? And then how are you going to secure their private keys, or is that their responsibility to do?
Yeah, so the way any key is created is you can generate an account, which is we provide an encrypted version of your seed that comes from any version of the wallet server result that we get. So, for example, if you wanted to create your account with a Hedera wallet, we use HashConnect software development kit. So the way that works is we never get the private keys. In fact, HashConnect never deals with the private keys. All of this is stored in your local storage. So when at initialization, say you started with in fact, you can even sign up with email, but this is just the Hedera approach, right? So if we result your initial wallet, if we get your initial server response, which is usually your public key, right? We take a portion of that and then turn it into a seed that then is used to generate your DID, right? So that's it's automatically generated and arbitrary to whatever pre-seed you give it. And so if you ever say you wanted to log in again, well, all you would do is log in with your Hedera wallet. And now your seed is your HashConnect server response. But if you wanted to do email, for example, email, now you're not creating it with Hashpack, but rather you're going to be using a different pre-seed to generate your account. So there's nothing really stored. We only anticipate whatever it is you are going to provide as half of the seed. So you generate half of the seed, we generate half of the seed, and whatever it makes up, it will generate your account, Does that make sense, or do you want to ask
I
about
definitely
me?
want to let Lisa talk. She has her hand raised real quick, and I know this is getting.
Yeah.
I never and Lisa, by the way. So for all the panelists up here, I don't intentionally try to make these conversations extremely nerdy. It always tries to it always ends up gravitating towards that, and I always find it super interesting. So Jean and Meta Swap and everybody up here, like, yeah, it just is what it is, guys. So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so I'm just wanting to say, like, obviously, for everyone here, most of us understand all that nerdy stuff. But if we want to make this, come into the general public, that needs to be super simple. It needs to be, I log on here and I can do this, upload X, Y, and Z, and then I'm in. If you're talking about, I've got SHA-256, I've got, EIP, whatever, it's like, your normal everyday retail person is going to go, this is too complex. I'm not doing it.
This is one of the things that was really interesting. And I'll ask Brandon from the HBAR Foundation to maybe speak on this for a second, because I do believe that, again, not trying to make it super Hedera based, but HGraph.io, Turtle Moon, and some of the things that Patches is doing from GraphQL API is fantastic, which essentially, in a bare bones way, it makes somebody that wants to develop on that network be able to query the network in a really, really simplistic way without spending 4, 5, 6, 10 hours doing something. And it really does come down to a lot of the developers to make sure that these user interfaces, UX and UI, are built out in a way that, number one, Web 2 is certainly incorporated. So what you're used to already, you can do in this space, but you integrate Web 3 aspects where you can that provide value. So Brandon, I think it's a gigantic achievement for them. And Patches, I know how much he's been building. So I don't know if you wanted to give them a little bit of a shout out today, because I tried doing it on my video. I've been so amazed with the tool sets that they've been trying to build out. And I think that you're going to see that on multiple networks. You're going to see that on the XRPL 1,000,000%. You're going to see that on any new network. Like, you can look at, like, there's like hypey coins like A0 and all, like, there's tons of layer ones out there, right? But I have some A0. Like, all of these networks are going to have the same problems. They need user interface. They need usability. Lisa said it perfectly. Nobody's going to use it if they don't know how to use it. But yeah, Brandon, if you want to maybe give a little bit of a heads up about that announcement today with alpha testing as well within HGraph.io, that'd be fantastic, dude.
Yeah, sure. So I actually did an interview with Patches that got posted today. I'll try to pin that here, but it talks about hashgraph.io. He's doing exactly what Google's focusing on, right? They're making the tools for the developers to come in and make it easy, like your last speaker mentioned. Make it easy for not just the builders, but then they can make it easier for the billion users that Google wants to bring into the space. But it's pretty good when you see one of our builders aligning with somebody like Google, trying to make those tools to make building in this space easier.
1,000,000%. And I was actually surprised when I read that press release, and I'll definitely move on from here. But that press release, when I saw that Swirlds was actually, which is, the OG company behind Hedera Hashgraph, was using HGraph.io's tool sets for querying certain aspects within the network, which is massive to be like, I'm a community member. I built this and I integrated this, and now, the OG of OGs is actually using this.
Patches is a superstar, regardless of whether.
Have you ever seen him in real life?
I haven't. No.
I've seen him once. I'll tell you this real quick, and then we'll move on. He looks like he's been. He looks like he could have been. And I love Patches, by the way, but he looks like he could have been a member of the band Fish, in like the early '90s, like a jam band, hippie band, Fish.
It seems like whatever he attacks, he's successful with, so he can. he's a pretty sharp cat.
I just want to jump in and say that regarding ease of use for the end users, that's going to be the thing that really pushes crypto into the mass awareness and beyond awareness and into adoption. And I know a lot of projects that are working on simplifying the user experience. And also with regard to language and dev language, we're very educated in this space. But when I speak to, novices in wanting to know more about crypto, I say digital assets, digital art. I stay away from NFT even. I try to simplify it and make them comfortable with it. I think if we ever do get a solid footing on Coinbase, other people will start finding about it more. But we have one chance right now to shape what we want to happen. And that chance is now. And Web3 is amazing. And Web3 begins with WE. So nobody can do this alone. It takes a community. And that's what the Mark Zuckerbergers don't understand. He said yesterday that he's fully aware that there's going to be more than one metaverse. So he's even coming to light with his little cartoon characters that he's not going to win the metaverse. There is not going to be one metaverse. Lehman Baird is shared worlds. We're going to all XRP, everybody that wants to go into a community will have their own metaverse. And then just like you want to go from California to Germany, you'll go visit some other metaverse. So
Did you see Hello Future? Did you see the Meta thing today with partnering with Microsoft for Microsoft Teams? And it was like,
yeah,
people participating in a Microsoft Teams meeting in the metaverse, which is like coming from a traditional business aspect as a project manager for like 10 years. My companies that I've worked for would be like, no, I want to see you face to face. Like, this is like, it's all so quiche and like, so let's sell this to the populace. Like, that's not, yeah.
Over percent of the people developing on Mark Zuckerberg's metaverse don't want to be there. They want to be on projects that are building towards that end.
A lot of them left, and a lot of them left and started their own ecosystems as well because they were like, I cannot be a part of this.
And Mark even said yesterday, well, this is a vision of that people want to build for the future. Like we're looking for people who, and that's well and good. But as developers, you really want to develop, so you don't want something to, that's like game development takes 3 years. It takes a certain person to want to do that.
Yeah, 100%. I think you said something very, very smart. Game development takes 3 years. You can look at this ecosystem right now. Look at Axie Infinity, right? With what that market cap achieved by literally being a play to earn game, and now they have other aspects, I'm sure. But it's like that ecosystem achieved a multi-billion-dollar market cap that could consume all of the AAA gaming studios in the entire world based on their market cap. And that's when we get into like oversaturation versus like real value. I do think that there's going to be gaming ecosystems and all sorts of ecosystems that justify that value. But do I believe that Axie Infinity is the end-all be-all for gaming? No. So
yeah, I think what I'd like to add just for off the back of Mark Zuckerberg. So one of the use cases for digital identities in social networks and just like the influence you have on these different social media platforms is, I mean, right now you could have a massive following on Twitter and you want to start a TikTok account. It's not going to follow you there. You need to start from scratch. You need to sign up to their terms and conditions, and you need to build that audience, learn their algorithms, whatever it is. But I think one of the really interesting use cases for in this space for digital identities would be that when you are a person of influence on one platform, that follows you onto any platform. And I think that's massive for people, and I think that's an easy concept to understand as well, because it's like a one-stop shop. Once you get that influence, that kind of carries across multi digital spaces for you,
because that you would own that data
exactly.
That so you don't have to prove anything to Instagram, versus Twitter versus Facebook.
Exactly.
They're gone. They don't know they're gone yet. They probably do know they're gone.
I think they do. Because I mean, what you're doing is basically you're creating that influence, and then essentially, like you said, you're selling all that data to them. They own you, and they own everything that you do. Then you go onto another platform, and it's
they can just say you're gone.
That's it. Yeah. And also you're working hard to not only build it, but try and funnel that to somewhere else, or any kind of anything that they own from your data is also something that, yeah, like you said, you have no control of. So I think that's a concept for people to try and understand, that ownership really does become yours, and it becomes yours across any platform on world on the web, really. So
but that's what Web 1, the promise of the real first internet, that was the promise. And then in Web 2, it got all crazy with Walmart, Amazon, and whatever. You couldn't go anywhere. All of a sudden, you couldn't find any good information because Google was curating it for you. We need to get that back in Web 3, and that comes through community and all the effort that you do, I'm sure, for your following and to provide good information.
Yeah. Also, guys, I think we're still having issues with the spaces. People are cutting out or getting rugged. We honestly don't know what's going on with Twitter Spaces, but if you are, we do apologize. Yeah, just request to speak, and we are accepting these speaker invites.
Yeah, I've got Matthew Lany up here, 100%. Lisa and Marta, you guys both have your hands up. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just noticed that.
How you guys doing today?
Hey, what's up, deep diver?
Hang on one sec, Matt. Let me, because Lisa and Marta both have their hands up, and I'm.
Go for it.
I just wanted to speak on basically, the ownership of your data and that sort of thing within, sort of going into TikTok or Twitter or anything. The thing is, when you go onto these platforms, you sign their terms and conditions. So that means that they can do what they want with your data, and you're agreeing to that. So that's the issue with that. So there's a Instagram video with Joe Rogan speaking, and he goes, he got absolutely blazed, and then he went deep diving into TikTok's terms and conditions, and basically they can do whatever they want with your data. They're looking at what phone you're on, what browser you're on, so many different things. So Web3 needs to come in and solve that.
What was this South Park episode where one of the kids signs the Apple iPhone terms and conditions, and then he gets into like that horror movie thing where it's like I forget what the horror movie was called, but it's like
Human Centipede.
Yeah, the Human Centipede. So the guy, the kid from South Park, signs it without knowing what he signed, and it's like you just literally signed up to be a human centipede for like data. I mean, 100%.
Well, nobody
that's crazy.
even looks at that. You'd never read that. It's like pages and pages long. So who sits there and reads that terms and conditions for any of them?
Who reads any terms and conditions?
Nobody, which is horrifying. Which I think somebody that came up before said that they were, thank God MetaMask implemented some sort of a disclaimer where it's like, hey, if you sign for this, and I was even in a chat yesterday, and this was coming from, somebody from the XRPL, and I think it might have been Chris. I don't know if Chris is still down there. I think it might have been Chris Thompson from, one of the network validators on the XRPL that was bringing up, like, I don't sign transactions. Or he didn't say he didn't do it. He just said he's scared shitless if he signs transactions on Ethereum, because who knows what is actually occurring. Like, you're not reading through hundreds of lines of code or hundreds of lines of like disclaimer. And that's how a lot of people got rogged over the past year or two too. A lot of people got rogged by signing shit and connecting.
I don't get the discussion completely, because if you use your iPhone, you accept the terms and conditions of Apple as well.
I haven't updated my iPhone, Dirk, in like 3 years.
And I think I'm a big I try to be careful, but I tend to say things that most people in Web3 don't necessarily like. But the whole decentralized thing, it's a dream, and it will never happen, according to me, because for example, the regulations that Hello Future told us about in the European Union, they will oblige every token issuer to do full KYC on everybody. What do you think they will do with the data they collect?
It depends on where it's stored, Dirk. If it's stored on the mainnet in Hedera in a fileless, permissionless system, there is no database. It doesn't have to be on a database.
Yep, you're probably right. Well, for us as a company, of course, and that's also not a popular thing to say, but it is valuable to have the information of the people that are using your platform, of course.
I'm not saying that it's one or the other. It's usually in the middle. We can take back a lot of our privacy, a lot of our data. Can we take back 100%? No, but we do deserve more of it back. And the bouncer at the club or the person that requires you to prove that you're 21 does not need to know your address. And that's the kind of things we can take care of.
Yeah, well, you can't really. You've got to be realistic. And, I've been listening to this for quite a time now. And, the thing is what people need to understand is that we are giving the governments and have given governments the ability to store, collect, and use our data freely. We built the facilities to do that. And, people are dreaming if they think we can live in a decentralized way without government, without central government interfering. We are the source of the income. We build the infrastructure around us. Everything revolves around our input and our monies getting to the government. Otherwise, we wouldn't exist. And people need to remember that. You look around you. Where does your water come from? Where do your streets come from? Where does your telephone line and network come from? It all comes basically from government. And we pay for that by way of our taxes and our use of infrastructure and what have you. We pay rates and levies, and that's the way we have evolved. And that is, we can't go backwards. And it comes back to this simplicity of use. We talk about needing and wanting widespread use of our digital currencies and our digital assets and what have you. But in order to do that, you need to have regulation. The first thing that happens is when somebody gets hacked, they scream out and they say, who do I go to? Who do I complain to? And they go to the police, they go to the exchanges. So everything we do revolves around some form of centralization. And I've often said that the actual infrastructure behind cryptocurrencies is built by geeks for geeks. And if you want widespread adoption, you need to go back to simplistic things. Banks have done it. Banks have created a network of ability for people to transact every single day using their phone. I very rarely do I use a card. I swipe my phone at an EFTPOS terminal and I walk away. I don't give a damn what the infrastructure is behind it. That's what I want to be able to do. And I can't do that with cryptocurrency. And, the longer we carry on building these intricate networks and these abilities to keep our identity secret, the more difficult it is, and you're not going to get widespread adoption. I can tell you that now. You're shooting yourself in the foot. The more intricate you make it, and the more difficult you make it for it to understand, to be understood, then you're not going to get the customers.
We have we have Martaverse. Martaverse had her hand raised for a while, so go ahead, Marta. Sorry.
I'm guys. I'm really only just going to say good night here, but I wanted before I go. It's just getting very late for me. I have to be up for my kids in the morning for school run, so apologies for cutting in between. And what I wanted to say. There's been many fantastic points here made throughout this discussion. You're recording the spaces. I'm hoping to listen to the rest of it because all the opinions here they're very valuable. Just to touch on obviously the adoption part. I totally agree. Like we don't understand. No, the majority of people don't understand how internet works, or even back in the day when they had a phone, nobody really cared. where they were being connected through the operator, or they weren't. They just picked up the phone. They were explained, you just have to press a few numbers or dial a few numbers, and this is it. And this kind of the same thing with the cryptocurrency. I do find, and I absolutely love joining spaces, but I do find as well, from a new point of view, that could be a little bit overwhelming when you're hearing all those crazy words, lingo and all that. So I appreciate anybody that's coming into the space, any content creator or any person that is taking a mission to explain it in simple terms, because I think this is exactly what we need, and a lot more of it. People bridging between, that nerdy word, which is absolutely fascinating. But if I was to explain same things to someone coming into the space, and the words that that person that is very technical has a minute ago, that would be absolutely impossible for me. So I like to kind of translate it into like simple words, and maybe use visuals, or like just everyday language, just to explain. And as I think Hello Future was saying, you don't use NFTs, you'd be swapping it to digital art, which speaks to people, or digital money, in different ways. Really, on just because I could go on and touch on everything you've just said, but I just want to say thanks very much for including me in this conversation. Thank you for listening to me as well. It's been a great pleasure. I cannot wait to listen to the rest of your spaces, because I know it's being recorded. Thank you, and hopefully,
Thanks.
guys, we'll see you around. Not in the metaverse, because I would love to meet people face to face.
Thanks,
Absolutely,
Martaverse.
this
No,
is the way.
100%. Like every single thing that you just said is exactly what we need to be trying to accomplish in this space. It becomes difficult because a lot of us have been here for like a year, 2 years, 3 years. So like I think that we need to like reset language a lot of the times, and I'm definitely 100% guilty of this. Where like I will use verbiage just because I'm comfortable with using verbiage, but I didn't know that same verbiage like a year ago, or 2 years ago,
Yes,
or 6 months ago.
100%. But it comes with time, obviously. But just something else, I just thought of that there, in terms of digital identity, all the storage of data and all that. What I really hope with Web3, what we will accomplish here is that the choice will be given back to the people, because I understand where you're all coming from with I can remember who someone speaking about. I understand the data is being collected, all that is being, done. But it would be nice, obviously, for the people to have a choice what data they want to share, without being tricked into, like those small little terms, or cookies being, collected and all that. I know from company's point of view, Dirk, you did say it's very helpful to have certain information, but I think crypto was created for the people, and going forward, I do hope and believe we're going to achieve this idea why it was created, that it is going to be for the people and about the people, and people will be given the choice what they want to share, how they want to share it, and how they want to utilize cryptocurrency and blockchains.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Martaverse. Like
Thank
we
you.
love you coming up. I mean, honestly, like I think we all share the same sentiments, regardless of what you're doing, regardless of what people are doing, trading or in different ecosystems, or just a deep dive researcher. Like when we get into these discussions, we all kind of have synergy in thought. And you are welcome up whenever, Martaverse. You can come up whenever you want to come up and talk. And I'm super honored and I think Sadaf might have invited you, but I'm super honored that you came up, and want to have you come up whenever you feel comfortable to come up. So thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah,
and
thank
good
you.
night. Thanks very much, guys. Speak soon.
Have a good night. I think I'm just on that topic. What Rippleton mentioned earlier. We're in this space, and I think we're really passionate about everything becoming decentralized and really taking that ownership back. But it's crazy when I'm in this space and I'm speaking to people. We're all aligned, but then you venture out to in real life, and they don't really care as much. So you're probably right in saying that we're probably not going to achieve, I guess, that mass adoption for this, or that mass care factor, really, because people aren't really that concerned. And I think your point about the data was, I don't think anyone ever had an issue signing up to a platform and providing their data and, your login details, whatever it is that you need to sign up with. I think it's what happened eventually, which was the selling off of the data. And again, that aspect as well, some people do like it. So, you see people going, well, I was talking about X topic for the past few days, and now I'm getting ads that are recommending exactly that thing I was looking for. People do like it. So, yeah, I think we are at a crossroads.
Yeah, that's like the tracking. The tracking is separate from privacy. It's what they do with the data, not so much the data itself.
Well,
And
it's the
it can
share.
be
Yeah.
about, to your point, it can be about fairness as well, right? So today I was doing an interview with Drop. I'll post that interview tomorrow, but they were talking about how, their micropayments can enable, selling your data on a regular basis for low fees. Whether you're driving around in a city, a smart city, or something along those lines. DLT is not going to solve everything. There's no question about that, but it can make it better. It can make it incrementally better. And to Rippleton's point, that there might not be mass adoption in some of these things. There are going to be some places where DLT is used to make things easier, to make things to have less friction. And then there's going to be other things where, decentralization and privacy is going to be important. ACOR with some of the medical records and things like that is going to be important. But you're right that it's not going to solve everything. And there are going to be certain places where there is mass adoption, and there's going to be certain places where there isn't. But it is going to incrementally make things better.
Yeah, I'm going to have to. I don't know why I was just muted.
You're getting rugged.
Yeah, somebody rugged it. I did want to give a thank you to everybody in here. Like, we are not paying for bots within a Twitter space. We've been facilitating these things extremely organically. So everybody that's in here is a real listener. And, I just definitely wanted to say, like, anybody up here right now that is speaking, we plan to continue to do these and facilitate these interviews, like, across chains, across, different aspects of, like, value, and anybody that wants to listen can listen. It is what it is. I think it's an honor to be able to say that we can get a panel up here like we've had even today. Looking at this panel right now, I mean, it's massive. Like, there's a lot of ridiculous contributors across multiple ecosystems in this space. So that's kind of me. Sadaf, I don't know if we have any questions down there or, whatever we want to do, like, over the next, like, 15, 20 minutes. And I think we can close this out by, like, 7:15 or so.
I just want to say we're uniting citizens focused on the future.
You're a wild animal, dude. Citizen of the future. Like, if you guys weren't here before, I told him before, because our report that we do was like long form before, and you had to like go into a word count. And I tell the story sometimes, but I had a discussion with him, and I'm like, hey, there's no more long form word count. And he was just like, oh, sweet. So it wasn't like, 2 pages of content. He literally gave us like 10,000 words, which ended up being like 28 pages around the trade finance ecosystem and what's going on as far as digitization. So, I mean, dude, I can't say enough for you, So yeah, kudos, man.
Yeah, cheers, man. Cheers, thanks, appreciate that.
Hey, Solomon, can I do a shameless plug here real quick? I just
1,000,000%.
I just want to bring something up. Tomorrow we're having our investor pitch event. We're going to have Blade Wallet, Tune FM, Stargraph, Earthlings, Hedera Gallery, Citadel Wallet, all kinds of people coming up. And it's pretty much where we bring together capital allocators looking to deploy capital in the Hedera ecosystem and people that are building in the space. So if you want to get in on the ground floor and see what's being built, check in for that. They interact. They give about a 7 to 10 minute pitch on what they're building. And then the investors come in and ask some pretty pertinent questions from
You're
what
killing
I've seen
me,
in the
Brandon.
past. What's up?
The Shark Tank aspect is 100% Sadaf, what we talked about doing with
Yep.
it at some point in time. 1,000,000%. No, I will 100% join. What time is it tomorrow?
It's going to be 9 a.m. on CrowdCast.
Why don't you pin Brendan?
Yeah, pin it up here.
Will do.
Pin it up here. 9 a.m. You said Eastern time.
Yep, 9 a.m. We have 10 contestants, so it's going to almost take 3 hours to get through everybody because it takes about 15 minutes per team. So it's fun to watch, that's for sure.
Yeah, that Shark Tank element is I think it's encouraging a lot of build in this space with quality projects, and I work quite closely with obviously Solomon and Dirk, and both of these guys are really passionate about getting people off the ground and really bootstrapping them to build something that's sustainable and is going to be around for quite a while, and it's going to contribute to bringing value into the space, and it is something that they're both facilitating across their platforms. So I think that's a great initiative.
Yeah, well, I just pinned it. I'll be hosting it tomorrow, so we'll have some fun.
Blade Wallet has a massive. This is not financial advice, by the way. But I saw Blade Wallet's tweet like a couple of days ago. They have a massive Hedera wallet onboarding event through Blade. Which if you guys want to check that out, check it out. That's up to you guys. I don't really, I'm just mentioning it. And same thing with Rippled In. Like, can you talk Rippled In? Like, since we're up on this panel right now, and I know we talked about digital identity, but for those of you that like might not know what Rippled In does in this space, can you talk a little bit about what you've done, how long you've been here, and what you're trying to facilitate as far as like a lot of bullshit going on in this space?
Yeah, well, if you don't know me, then you haven't issued a token.
That's it.
But yeah, I've been in the space since 2017. Set up a validator around that time, been a node, and set about learning about the XRP ledger. Became a member of the UNL by virtue of ending up on a couple of UNL lists, one put out by Ripple, the others put out by Coil and XRP Ledger Foundation. So I'm a UNL validator, one of the lucky 35 who gets to decide on your behalf a lot of the things. But yeah, so back in 2020, I think it was around about August 2020, on the XRP Ledger, there was quite a number of tokens issued, projects launching and issuing tokens and bringing into being the airdrop frenzy. and what became quite evident was a lot of these projects were just outright scams. So a small group of us, there were three of us, myself, Gaz, Old School, and Moonchaser, sat down and had a chat and decided that we would do some research on some of these projects and call out those that were scams and those that needed some information brought to the front. Because one of the problems we have is that when we talk of identity, when you issue your money or give your money to somebody, you should know who you're dealing with. You would never walk up to a man standing on the corner with a dark jacket on, give him $100 for a
Hey, I got to ask you a question before you go into the story. Would you ever walk up to a man standing on the corner that opened up his jacket and had like 100 pictures of turtles and fish bowls, and being like, "Hey, this is the fucking future right now"?
Yeah, and that's the thing. But what happens is we've got two scenarios, and what I always say is that in order to get value, you need to have something of value to gain from it. So if somebody gives you something that costs them nothing to make and it's unredeemable for something, then what value does that hold? But
I think the one caveat to that, Rippled In, is when you do really see like artist creators that know that they're artists that want to utilize Web3 and blockchain and DLT to like get their art out there and empower themselves, it's totally cool with me. Like, that's why I have a problem with I'm going to have a big problem with the XRPL ecosystem. I already have a massive problem with the HBAR ecosystem where I still to this day have not sold an HBAR NFT, and I have like 200 of them. And if artists are creating, I think we should always support that, just because like it's not all about. I think what you're getting into, and please continue, is like and I don't want to interrupt you. I know I just did. Promising value that doesn't exist, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So the thing is, if you take your own normal day-to-day activities, you go to a shop because you know the shop owner, and you buy the goods, and you know that if there's a problem with the goods, you can take them back. It's the same as if you go to a finance company. If you go to borrow money, you do exactly the same. If you go and put your money in the bank, you do exactly the same. If you want interest, to earn some interest. But when it comes to people indulging themselves on the interwebs and this magical money that is digital currencies, all that normal security and trust that they rely on in normal life goes out the window, and they throw it right away. And they're quite happy to give somebody who's completely anonymous $1,000 for what? A comic book picture that's been stolen from a coloring book.
Yeah,
And
but
for
I
the
mean,
guy,
yeah.
but and they're doing this, and when somebody says, "Well, who are you?" They say, look at my profile. I'm a clown with some fictitious name under it. That's my identity. So there's no email address, there's no phone number, there's no contacts abilities for people to get into. And this is, we are creating this environment because we are not requiring people to identify themselves. Every single project out there on the XRP ledger is a centralized project. And the reason it's centralized is because they've issued a token and they've got total control over it. So in order for us to have trust in that project, we need to tick off some boxes. We need to have some basic information about who they are, what their project is, what their timeline is, what are their tokenomics. And the majority of these tokens that say, we've got burning functions in our thing, what a waste of fucking time that is. That's just
Bro, it's an insane value proposition because, a lot of the times you look at follower accounts and quote unquote influencers and things like this, but like I've made tons of mistakes based on judging character that I should not have judged character. I should have judged character on top of history. Like knowing somebody's history and track record, knowing a team's history and track record, knowing X, Y, and Z, at least knowing somebody's a real individual and that they haven't. One of the things that I've seen you do is, which I think is fucking amazing, is you track down to the point where you can see things that are like, somebody's issued this, but they've also issued 15 different projects, and they've all fucking rug pulled. It's insane to even think that that's occurring right now. But that is 100. Dude, there are thousands upon thousands of Twitter followers and investors in the projects that are like just blatant fucking scams. Let alone the fact of trying to figure out who people are in the back end, which I've had a problem with. It is what it is.
Well, I work on the simple basis that, if somebody's unwilling to identify themselves and have a provable identity when they are asking for your money, especially for a promise that's yet to be delivered, then there's absolutely zero to trust in that project. Zero. And nobody should be investing in it. And that's the way we are going to rid the market of these scams, is by requiring and commanding the trust, because if you don't put your money into them, they can't exist.
What I really like on top of this, so I think you're right to an extent, but I also think that it's a little bit, I don't want to say the Shawshank Redemption term obtuse, but I do think it's a tiny bit obtuse. But and I'm not talking shit, just hear me out for 1 second. If you're an artist, right, and you're an artist that wants to stay anonymous, you should be able to stay anonymous, but I should be able to prove verifiably that the art that you've created in some way is authentic, right? If I'm just selling an art-based project, if I don't want to dox myself as a project creator, I should at least have a way to dox the artwork. And if I really like it, know that it hasn't been ripped off or copied or done X, Y, and Z things, which doesn't even really exist right now, right? On Hedera and HBAR, you guys have something. There's a grading system somewhere, but I don't even know. How can we flush that out where it's like mass populace wide, where it's like, I respect people's right to privacy, 1,000,000%. If you're releasing an art-based project, then it should not be about the founder. It should be all about the art. But I want to have the same verifiability within the art as I would the founder if you're releasing me something that could potentially do well in the future from a financial prospect. If I'm releasing a value-based coin or a revenue-generating NFT, I definitely want to know about the founders.
Yeah, but this comes back down to the trust issue. You know, you need to have something concrete to be able to trust. One, as you said, you need to be able to identify that it is a unique piece of art that's owned by the person and able to be sold to you. So there needs to be some proof around that. Without identifying the owner or the project person themselves, Banksy's a classic example, totally anonymous, but he doesn't come to you and sell you a piece of work that he might produce in 6 months' time. He produces the work, then sells it, and you've instantly got something identifiable. And that's the thing, you know, we have built up on the XRP ledger and across numerous other blockchains, I presume, but it's really it's
how many rug pulls have we seen on the in the Hedera ecosystem? I don't know because I'm asking like HBAR Foundation or Hello Future. I know there's been a few, but I haven't seen it be like widespread.
Yeah, like a classic example was yesterday. I got tagged in a tweet that said, you know, this diamond project, the CEO has stepped down and and just deserted the project. And a couple of the influencers.
Wait, hold on. There were 2 team members that came up and said we've been appointed CEO, and you fucking responded. And you said, appointed by who? Like,
yeah. So
who appointed you?
Yeah, so there's obviously been some communication. Now, what they don't know is that this issuer has also issued 5 other tokens that have all rugged because they haven't done their research, and all I've done is I've looked at his wallets and looked at his exchange accounts and looked at where the money flows. And I've pinned them all together, and you know, it's not hard to do, but people don't do their due diligence. So you know, they look at the sparkly things, the cool words. I looked at his website, and his words are taken directly off other websites. So all the information he's giving is basically plagiarized. His project is probably plagiarized. I haven't looked into the images and that, but sure, the NFTs are lovely to look at and what have you. But at the end of the day, all he's done is extorted the money out of people by all these false promises on a number of projects, taken it straight out of the accounts and put it into his exchange account, and obviously moved it out of the arena. But you know, the thing is, when you sell a promise, the money that you have obtained for that promise should remain in the public account of that project until the actual token or the NFT is issued, for example, right? Because if you can't supply what you've been paid for, then you should be refunding the money. Now, Love Monster was a classic example of that. They fucked off to another blockchain and they've moved to another blockchain after that. So they're on their 4th blockchain, and each wheel they turn, they take money out of the community.
That's more promising.
Deliver nothing.
I know Lisa has her hand up. What's up, Lisa? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I just want to touch on the Banksy thing. It's like he has his own validator system where it's called pest control. So if you do have a Banksy, you can send that to pest control and they can verify that it's an actual Banksy. So there needs to be some sort of system that, within the community, that if an artist is a known artist or whatever, they can verify that art is real and the NFT is real. So, going down the line, there's so many things that need to be implemented, especially with what Rippleton's saying, to verify, that projects are real. Projects, have real people behind them, and they're not going to be rugged moving forward, that the person that's starting the project is going to follow that through. So, obviously things happen along the way, and there's obstacles, but has that person got a background where they can move past those obstacles and get the project to the final result?
Yeah, I think the big thing for me, the lesson learned that I made over the past year or two is, always doing due diligence with projects, but I've made mistakes with people. So I have to, for me, be like, what do these people actually have at stake? And if they have at stake making millions of dollars if something is successful, but even if they dox themselves, and they have to launch like code that takes like an hour to write, it's probably not worth anything, right? It has like what's actually being built, the problem being solved, how you can verify it, not only from a project and a founder standpoint, but like artist wise with NFTs. I want to make sure that these NFTs are actually like unique and individual. Yeah, I don't know. HBAR Foundation. Yeah, go ahead.
With that, so I've got an NFT project, and it's not really a show. I just want to talk about the like what we're doing. So it's a verifiable project. It comes from me. I'm a face within cryptocurrency. I've got a reputation within cryptocurrency and the Web3 space. So I've been here for 10 years. I'm not going to rug pull it. I'm going to see it through to the end. And you need to be able to verify that with teams, like especially with 22,000 cryptocurrencies popping up every day, new ones, and what are they doing to move those forward and to promote them and to see them through to the end.
Yeah, and it's a very good point, because one of the things that I often struggle with is these these issuers of tokens, irrespective of what blockchain they're on. But what they do is they issue their token, that they sell their products or give their products away, whatever, right? And 3 months later, they turn around and say, "Oh, it's too hard. We're pulling the pin. It's too difficult." What did they expect? Did they not do any of their, these in normal business, you go into business, you don't fold your business after 3 months. If you do, it's been a really piss poor business to start with. But
well, how can you start a business without something verifiable that like has metrics or anything behind it? Like that was another big mistake I made. Like, all the DAO aspects were really bright and shiny, and like there was always a different model, but like you can't base it on anything besides historical data, right? You really can't. Like, there's no way to base anything of value based on like a new iteration of something, unless you have something historical to backtrack on. Which, I mean,
but
insane.
it's people just don't understand it. They come into a space, and this is been one of my arguments all along, is with airdrops, is why on earth would you give away the assets of your company to people for nothing, and then they use those assets that you've given away for nothing to buy the product that you're selling? When you go to a supermarket, they might give you a snippet of a biscuit to taste to entice you to buy a bag of biscuits, right?
They don't give you a dozen biscuits, do they?
No, they don't give you a bag of biscuits.
I would take them.
Yeah. I'd like to disagree on that. Like, I had a modeling agency and we did promotions, and we would drop drinks and biscuits and chips and whatever to get people to know what that product was.
Yeah, and I accept that, and but you don't give away a crate of champagne.
Mangoes.
You'll give them a taste of champagne, or you'll give them a taste of a wine. You won't give away a crate of wine. A lot of these projects are giving away 70-80% of their stock by way of tokens.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Giving them away. That's just nuts. And I've said that, and then they come back to me and say, I don't know where I've gone wrong. I'm not making any money. And I said, because you're giving it all away. It's like somebody's walking into a shop, somebody's standing at the door giving them $100, and they've got all their shelves full of $100 items. and people are walking in, the shopkeeper's giving them the money to go and spend at their shop. It's just absolutely nuts. And
Lisa,
when that happens,
is it Coin Runners, Lisa?
Yeah, so
yeah, that's it.
coinrunnersmovie.com.
Okay,
I've got her
cool.
socks.
Hey,
I've
Lehman
got
Swap,
Lisa's
you've
socks.
had your hand up for a while. You can join in on the convo.
Yeah, just hop in and interrupt me because I interrupt everybody.
There's a few things I want to touch on. With respect to token giveaways, in terms of a lot of DeFi projects, you said that it's the essence of the project, and I'd like to counter the fact that it's really you're giving away utility. So you came up with the example of you go into a shop and they're giving you biscuits to get biscuits. It's more like they're giving you a knife so that you can cut the loaf of bread. Essentially, the product is the platform, and the token is a means to use the platform. So it's not like a stock where, obviously the token has value, but the token is what's used in order to increase usage on the platform. And then that's what increases the value of the token.
I think one of the things too, Lehman Way, that this aspect is coming from right now from Ripple in is like, we haven't seen on the XRP ledger like NFTs go live. And we also haven't seen other DeFi protocols out there where they operate marketplaces. Like I can think of what are there 3 right now rippled in that are actually DeFi marketplaces? Like on XRP is one, Sologenic is one, and there's what is there, one more? I think there's probably a couple more.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. If you have a token that has no utility, then that's the only value it has. So in that sense, it's closer to a stock. But when
Can you talk, Lehman Way, a little bit about, and maybe HBAR Foundation or Hello Future could say this too, like there's been a lot of grants as far as what occurs, and there's a lot of doxing processes within those grants. So like, do we have metrics based on that rippled in from like the XRP ledger, like the grant recipients that are actually existing right now that probably have doxed themselves and have a business model?
So most of them, I look at XR Phone as a classic example. Here's a guy who got a grant. He built out a product, got a grant based on the product that he had built, has gone to market with his product and is still building on it. He's issued a token for use in his project. But he's not giving away his utility. He's not giving away his products. When I was talking about giving away, I was talking more about the NFTs and those who had something to sell and they had a redeemable value on their token. If you have a redeemable value, then why on earth would you be giving it away? And if there's no utility and there's no redemption value and you give away a token, what is the token's, the token's worth nothing, costs nothing to actually issue. So it holds no value. So the only value that's given is given by the community.
I mean, it's a mix though. It's a mix. It's got to be a mix though, dude, because like even like on Hedera, like you look at like Creamies and what they've done. I'm not advocating somebody to go buy a Creamies NFT on Hedera. I'm just saying, for example, they were one of the first DeFi mechanisms on the Hedera network. And they've actually built out a mechanism where they're doing airdrops of a token, but it's used for like, participating more so in the network. The Hedera network. Yeah,
but that's fine. But if say for argument's sake, I issued a token, right, and I had no redemption value for it whatsoever, which is what a lot of these projects are, especially staking projects on the XRP ledger, because you cannot stake on the XRP ledger.
No, you have to manually. Can I explain this for 1 second? So if you were on the XRP ledger and you launch a coin, and then you say, "Hey, now we have staking," that you have essentially allocated a manual allocation within your token fund to be able to reciprocate manually staking rewards for people, which means inherently you're not contributing to any sort of building of a network. You as a project owner are selling a fucking security because
yes you are
right off the bat.
At the end of the day, there is absolutely zero value in it because there is no redemption value for that token. If you go back to the issuer and say, "What will you give me for this token?" they will say you nothing. It costs us nothing.
And also you're controlling the network. You're increasing value on the network. Essentially, like because there's really nothing besides if
What
you're an
network?
entire staking coin, you're
What
nothing.
network? What network? They're using the XRP ledger. So, and I'm talking about the XRP ledger here. So, in the basis of staking is that somebody is doing some work or doing something with your tokens in order to add value to your tokens. So you get an interest rate, or your tokens are borrowed to somebody to do something with, and you get an interest rate on them. These projects are just issuing a token with zero value, giving it out. They are saying, you hold those tokens in your wallet, and we will give you XYZ tokens going forward. But who adds the value to those tokens? It's not the issuer, but he's selling those tokens at the same time. It is you, the fool, who's buying these tokens to get more value from these free tokens. So at the end of the day, the only person who's contributing to the value of those tokens is you, the customer. Because
This isn't
negating
proof. This isn't negating proof of stake networks that have decentralized enough where it makes sense to bootstrap a network. By the way, this is literally talking about projects to release an entire use case around staking, which is a really interesting
Solomon, I
thing to think about.
I think we
I've
could
got no
tease this
problem
out a
with
little bit,
staking.
because I'm curious about these projects, specific projects that he's talking about, because in the case of Lehman Swap, I pinned their thing. Of course, there's plenty of value for a decentralized exchange for these projects to be able to swap HTS tokens, for instance, Hedera token service tokens. Then you look at the utility that's being built around our NFTs. So the first thing where I'm seeing some interesting utility is in the gaming space. So we have Earthlings out there who's creating a beautiful game. They're great designers, and their NFTs are going to have use in their game. And we know that there's certainly value, entertainment value in playing those games. And then we have old NFTs that have established themselves in the Hedera community, and other games are looking at those NFTs and saying, you know what, we're not going to create our own NFTs. We're going to use these other NFTs and then incorporate them into our game. And then they have value in their game for those reasons. So I'm not sure the platforms he's talking about that don't have utility, but I think we need to focus on the platforms that do have utility, the networks that do have utility, and how these NFTs and fungible tokens can be used in those ecosystems.
1,000,000%. But I think what he's also getting at here is the fact that it becomes almost indistinguishable for like the mass populace to determine which platforms are going to be around for 12 to 16 to 18 months. Like, I don't disagree with you at all. Like the ones in Hedera that I see right now that have been here, that I know that are actual builders in this space, I will support, forever until I don't support them with whatever mechanisms get utilized. But a lot of these aspects within Hedera are a different animal, which is why what Ripple it in is doing right now within the XRPL, we don't even have an NFT standard right now. XLS20 is that NFT standard. And there's going to be a mass onslaught of people coming into that ecosystem, just like we saw within Hedera be a mass onslaught within Hedera, like of people a year ago. And it's going to be like a builder's kind of basement where we kind of get out of the basement, we grow up towards, the sun. I don't disagree with you 100%, like at all. It's just like, how do we determine bullshit from reality right now within a network that is so nascent from an NFT standpoint? Because the XRPL from an accounting standpoint, I think is super fleshed out. But it's like, how do you integrate trust-based mechanisms within community builders in a way that you haven't seen the people that have proven out their business models? I guess is the real question, right?
I mean, this goes back to what I was saying before about private KYC verification services. So I know that's popular or beginning to become popular in DeFi. I don't know if they do it right now for NFTs per se, because it's usually through an audit firm, and they don't typically audit NFT projects. But I'm sure there's a use case there where you can have that stamp of approval that, proves that this is the same person as a previous project, and you can see their track history right through that KYC verification, where it shows, all the projects that they have worked on previously, and you can get a better idea of their history, as you guys had said, which is the most important thing. I mean, you look at, the business business world right now, I mean, just because you know somebody doesn't guarantee anything. I mean, you look at Bernie Madoff, it was all based off of his relationships, and that amounted to nothing. It was all vaporware. So, I think there's a false sense of security of doxing individuals as if that guarantees that the project's going to succeed or follow through to the end. And at the end of the day, it's the code. And a lot of people, they don't spend the time.
Can I say something real
That's the
quick?
problem. Yeah.
Rippled in my team Discord chat where we like manage like the Twitter spaces and stuff, and we all post like team stuff. Somebody said like one of my team members said, "Rippled in is a downer." You're not a downer, bro. Like it's just the like, and I get really involved in these conversations because I really am interested in like all of this stuff. So like scams and aspects surrounding scams are certainly. I don't even know how much you could really applaud somebody that's tried to do what you've tried to facilitate. But also, I think the points from Lehman Swap and the HBAR Foundation and Hello Future and everybody else here, like you do see projects that 1,000,000% started off as art-based projects that should be able to expand. Or maybe even they have something they can stand up. So the question then becomes like, is there really a verifiable way to determine if, I guess there is, if the platform works, it works, right? Like, basically having a platform that facilitates a use case within a coin or an NFT versus like not. And then how do you sell it at the beginning and how do you move from there? Like none of us have that answer, right? We're all in this kind of quandary of like this wild west of crypto. So I did think it funny. I did think it was funny though, Elephant Man. Like,
yeah, look, I'm an asshole to everybody until they're hacked or scammed, and then they come running to me and ask me to help them and look into it. Yeah, and I'm been trying to take the mud off because it's not nice doing all this work all the time and living in a negative world.
I just wanted to mention, King Solomon, are you there?
I am always here for you. Hello. You know that for a fact.
I do. But I wanted to mention that we're actually having our second annual Hedera Community Holiday Party, December 15th. And we're looking for NFT artists who would like to contribute to the charity auction that we're going to have. So I pinned a tweet above. And if you want to take NFT artists, if you want to take 30 seconds to submit an interest in it, I'll be happy to give you more information.
I want to do a collaborative effort with either Batty Hattie or have my daughter do something. Max Williams in the HBAR community has my daughter's like mental health thing that she did like October or November of last year. So I 100% will support that. Batty, talk to me on the side about that.
That'd be great.
That's not even like a tweet to pin up here. Like anybody that listens to this or is listening right now, certainly look at that. But message me on the side. I want to 100% be a part of that, and I will help in any way possible with that. I love that. So
a collab sounds amazing. That sounds amazing. Thank you, King Solomon. Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to follow up with what King Solomon had said, and I think Elephant Man, you had a lot of good points, but there are a lot of nuances and fringe examples where we can find a middle ground that is better for the community and crypto at large. And I really do think it's that KYC verification person. I don't know if you've looked into that at all.
Yeah, 100%. And, I think the community per se needs to be more diligent and more demanding of information from these projects before they just dive in and willingly hand over their money to unknown people for an unknown product or project. I look at the websites of these projects and most of the stuff is just plagiarized. Just grab a paragraph out of one of these websites and do a search on it, and you'll find the majority of it's just copied from somebody else. And, these are alarm bells and these are warning signs that what you're seeing and what they are wanting from you maybe not up to a standard that you would ordinarily do in normal life. And, and that's what I try and teach is be safe in handing over your money. You're better off staying out of something and missing out on an opportunity because it didn't meet your criteria than to diving into something that costs you a shitload. The amount of people that come to me It's just unbelievable. And there's tons of people come to me daily. I've been ripped off. I've been conned. I've been, what's happened to this project? They've gone under. They've just gone silent every single day. Most of the projects that issue, they issue at a certain rate, and then within weeks they're down 90%. And it's every single project. It's not just one or two. It's every single project. But people don't see that. And the majority of people who are running these projects by virtue of buying and selling are bots. They're trading into and out of your tokens, and they're making a killing at your expense. Because what you've got to come down back to the original thing that I was talking about is, what is the redeemable value of that token if I go back to the issuer? Can they redeem it for something? And if they can't, then that token is worthless. And the only way that you can put value into that token is if you put value into it or the issuer does. And the majority of cases, the issuer doesn't. That's it, And would you do that for something else? Would you go and give somebody $10 for a bit of paper that had no value? No, not in real life. So why would you do it on the internet? Why would you do it with a digital currency? So that the majority of these scams aren't because the scams are able to trick you. It's because we're facilitating them by buying into these scams without doing due diligence and without having a basic set of criteria that must be met in order for you to put money into something. And I say to people all the time, create your list. There is no magic list, but create a list of a minimum amount of criteria that you require in order to trust a project to put your money in. And if we all did that, then we're going to get rid of the scams, because we're going to be demanding a certain amount of trust.
I have to give a
from these
gigantic.
projects.
I have to tell you guys, Crypto Airy down there in the chat, 100% has been building out this metric, at least like a base metric for people to use freely for researching projects in this space, which I think is absolutely ridiculous to even try to accomplish, and fantastic and amazing. And I would not expect anything less of Ed down there. And I know she's down there listening, but it's an amazing value proposition. And it's very important. Everybody gets fucking fooled. If you see a follower account, here's the thing that pisses me off the most. I've never paid for a bot follower. Never did any of that shit. I'm literally a person that, yes, I can find crazy, stupid things in the space, but I've made terrible mistakes in the space too. And those mistakes sometimes are based on coins, or based on projects, or based on people. It's literally the reality of it. And you can go through all my shit. Yes, I do get excited about shit that I invest in, but I've never told anybody to fucking buy anything. And there's a huge separation between that and what exists at the mass scale of this entire space. And it's not only from people, it's from projects, it's from creators. How do you verifiably get a track record score based on people? And if I was investing into an NFT project, I would love, I don't know, because you don't want to stifle innovation either. It's such an interesting thing, because it's such the Wild West. How do we get past the Wild West and start having some minimum aspects of verifiability between projects? XRP Productions is up here, by the way. XRPP. Last time you came up, I got bitched at for not letting you talk enough while you were eating a steak. But I love you, bro. So anytime you want to talk, dude, you are more than willing to talk in this space. But we are going to close this down 20 minutes or so. So XRP Productions, it's yours. Or Sadaf, you can take it over.
Yeah, can you hear me?
1,000,000%, bro.
Okay.
Dinner. What is for? I have to ask you.
Dirk, I didn't even say anything funny yet. Why are you doing the laugh emoji?
Well, I know what's coming, so.
No, you don't know what's coming. I'm XRPP, and I just wanted to. I don't know what you guys are talking about. I haven't. Can I get some more Pinot? Can I get a little more Pinot? Thank you. I just wanted to say that Lisa Edwards is not following me, and I'm aware of that. Generation Infinity is not following me either, and I just wanted to ask if they know. Thank you. Top it off. All right. Do they know that I'm XRPP? And Sadaf, I gotta say, you made fun of me today, and you called me PP, and I'm not PP.
Sarah, you
XRP.
gotta. Sarah, you're listening right now. You got to give XRP Productions a follow on our Twitter.
I'm XRP, the Standard Productions. I'm XRPP. I'm not PP. And I'm going to be checking the rest of your profiles just to make sure that you're following me, because it's kind of offensive. I mean, I'm messaged by Gary Gensler. I'm followed by Brad Garlinghouse. And I just wanted to let you guys know that. Anyway, I don't know what you guys are talking about, but I wanted to announce my new project, X-Turds. And we're going to be having an X-Turd airdrop, X-Turd token. Everyone who holds X-Turd token, the more that you hold, the more you get the X-Nugget token later on. So if you guys can give me your XRP, I would really appreciate it. And is there a way to block Ripple It in New Zealand? If there is, then let's do it. Only because he tries to, I don't know, he's like a Puritan or something. It's really strange. Anyway, I have to go. So
Can I ask you a question before you leave XRP Productions? Are you and David Schwartz okay? It seemed like there was some drama there a few days ago, some low-key drama. Are you guys okay right now?
Oh, we can. I mean, we can never stay mad at each other, to be honest. David and I really love each other, but we go way back. Okay, I'll take my leave.
Thanks for hopping up, bro.
Thank you very much. If you guys
keep in touch, and remember, X-Turds is the invaluable value mechanism of the X-Nugget coin.
X-Turds, and then the turd. We're going to be dropping turds.
You're dropping you're not dropping turds. You're dropping nuggets on the.
I mean, right. You got to buy the turds, and we drop the nuggets. But you got
XRPP. I'll be in touch.
Okay. Whoa. Was that Ripple It? And I thought I told you to mute him. Okay. Anyway, enjoy. I'll take my leave.
All right. Thanks, bro. Oh my! I think we had a pretty ridiculous conversation tonight, guys. H-Bar Foundation, XRP Productions, Citizen, Ripple It In, DS, Lisa, and honest, like, you know, I've had most of these people up here before, but Lisa, it was a pleasure to be able to speak with you. We have not ever been able to speak before, so it was honestly great.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yep. Jean Lupine and Lehman Swap. Death Ranger said one of the most. I'll close you guys with this because Death is up here right now, and he was not able to speak. But he said one of the smartest things that I've heard in this entire space, period. And digital assets, the digital economy, Web3, and crypto represents a Cambrian explosion in human evolution. And we are all sitting at the forefront and precipice of what is about to occur. And Death, that is all you, bro. I love you, man. You know I do. So I will talk to you guys when I talk to you. Yeah, I'm going to head out. And Sarah, you can close out the space. And thank you guys all for joining.
Later,
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.